Number two is that SpaceX specifically is getting a rule change implemented through the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ has had a filing to include SpaceX into the NASDAQ 100 quickly. This is the actual change, taking effect on May 1st and implemented at a quarterly review on June 22nd. After just 15 trading days, there can be fast entry candidates that are ranked in the top 40 and meeting all applicable eligibility criteria that will be added to the NASDAQ 100 index just 15 days after listing. SpaceX is the first to qualify for this, and it will land them right around July 7th when they will qualify. So the first month of this, from June 12th and then to the eventual listing, and then by July 7th-ish when they qualify, they won't be on the NASDAQ 100 yet, but shortly after that they will be, and they will be added automatically. This is a rule change that came right before the SpaceX IPO. And you don't need me to tell you this. The NASDAQ did this specifically to help SpaceX, obviously to include SpaceX into the NASDAQ 100. So the S&P 500 is holding their ground. They are not, at least they're delaying the auto inclusion of SpaceX to the S&P 500. So this is really separating the two major indices. On one hand, you have the NASDAQ, which is already leaning towards more growth and heavily weighted by AI companies. If you look at the NASDAQ 100, NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Broadcom, Tesla, Meta, Micron, and then you have Walmart. And then you have AMD, ASML. These are all Intel, Cisco, like all AI companies. Lam Research, AI, Applied Material, ARM. So because the NASDAQ is already so growth-driven and AI-driven, whereas the S&P is more stock market general, with this new inclusion, you're going to have a few more added here as well, because these are all going to be multi-trillion-dollar companies, which is going to push them right towards the top 10 holdings of the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ is soon going to be even more heavily AI weighted. And yeah, the NASDAQ is going to be the one to watch. On one hand, when this AI bubble eventually bursts, which we know it will, you know the charts that will go down a lot, right? You have Micron, you have SanDisk, you have like NVIDIA, you know, all these things, right? TSMC, whatever. And then you know the indices that will be hurt the most, which are obviously the semiconductor index and the Philadelphia SOX, the semiconductor index, and obviously anything AI related, like actively managed technology and AI ETF, or stuff like DRAM, memory ETF, right? Any of these, or even like the Korean market index, which is heavily weighted by Samsung and SK, these will all go down. So people are prepared for this. They will de-risk from these. But there is one major warning, which is by the end of this cycle, the NASDAQ is probably going to be pretty risky. Comparing the three major indices, NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, and Dow Jones Industrial Average, yeah, the NASDAQ is probably going to be hurt the most by the eventual AI bubble burst. So just keep that in mind. Back to the SpaceX IPO. So knowing that they're just looking for the biggest amount of exit liquidity possible, and their revenue definitely does not justify their valuation, and the fact that it's so retail driven, how do you play it? In the first month, from the day that it starts trading up until the point that they get included in the NASDAQ 100, there's probably a trading period where it's going to hold, okay? And it might even pump, just like a typical crypto TGE. That's my plan. And more importantly, I think I lean towards either avoiding it or starting to short it already.